From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is a Tropical Weather Update.
Fred Gossage here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center on this Monday, August the 11th, 2025, with your daily regularly scheduled tropical weather update. And we do have a lot to talk about in the tropics, but probably not a direct U.S. threat. We'll get into it here in just a moment. First off, as of 10 a.m. this morning Central Time, we officially got Tropical Storm Erin on the board from the Atlantic disturbance we watched roll off the west coast of Africa late last week, and we've been watching it over the weekend. As of 10 a.m., it did get organized for National Hurricane Center to pull the trigger on it, so we do officially have the fifth named tropical storm of the season in the Atlantic Basin, and it is forecast to become the first hurricane of the Atlantic season. We'll show you the track here in just a moment. Notice that the thunderstorm activity has flared down a little bit the past couple of hours. That's mainly a diurnal thing, meaning that it's tied to the cycle of daytime and nighttime. As it gets into the nighttime hours over there and the daily instability increases a little bit, you will likely see that thunderstorm activity with the circulation flare up again. It's moving off to the west-northwest. Here's the latest track as of 10 a.m. Central Time this morning. They will be issuing a new track at 4 p.m. Central Time, but as of the latest track here, maximum sustained winds were up to 45 miles per hour. It's a little off to the west-northwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, headed west at 20 miles per hour. Flooding and heavy rainfall in the islands over the weekend already causing a few fatalities. So this system, even though it just became Tropical Storm Erin this morning, it already has an impactful history. But fortunately, we're seeing less and less in the way of signs that this will be a direct impact to the mainland United States. Here's a track for the next 5 days, moving off to the west and gradually but steadily strengthening as it does, likely to become a hurricane by midweek. And notice the end of the track. The track only goes out to 5 days. National Hurricane Center stops their cone of uncertainty tracks out of 5 days, but by 7 a.m. Central Time Saturday morning, they're expecting it to be a Category 3 hurricane, 150 mile per hour or stronger sustained winds, because it will be getting into steadily more favorable conditions as it heads westward through the central Atlantic, and there's the potential that it may become a major hurricane earlier than what the track shows. This is just the first attempt at an extended range forecast. Now, notice it stops at Saturday, and we're still way out into the Atlantic. It is staying north of the U.S. Virgin Islands and the Windward and Leeward Islands, staying north of the Caribbean, staying north of Puerto Rico, even though they are being grazed by the edge of the cone, and they may be grazed by the edge of the cone for the next couple of days. It's more likely to stay north of there. Now, as we get into the weekend and early next week, we're really interested in how the track of all this is going to set up. Here are the tropical computer models. I've started this at 7 a.m. so that we're handing off from the end of the cone forecast to the computer models, and then they will pick up and carry this into early next week. Here's the weather setup we're going to have over North America, over into the North Atlantic going into the weekend and early next week. We'll have our big Atlantic high pressure here a little farther east over the North Atlantic, so that there's a big weakness in this ridge across western areas of the Atlantic, and then a big trough of low pressure over the eastern United States. Tropical systems usually like to track in between these two features, and this big weakness here between the two is usually the roadmap that tropical systems like to follow. And if you look at the tropical computer models here through the weekend into early next week, that's where the majority, if not all of them, are tracking. And there's a lot of agreement between the GFS and the Euro models and the various ensembles and all the models here that this is the general track that we will have. Now, there is some spread to where it may get a little closer to the East Coast, or it may be over toward the east of this gap over here out east of Bermuda. But this general idea of this being a recurving system off the East Coast out into the Western Atlantic seems to be the most likely scenario based on the data that we have now. But we'll have to watch it because this is still at the end of the week and the weekend and then early next week. Things can adjust themselves a little bit. Things can change. But as of all the data that we have available as of early this Monday afternoon, We see no reason to currently believe that this is going to be a threat to the Gulf Coast. And it's a very low probability that this will be a direct landfall threat to the east coast of the United States. It may get close enough to cause rip currents and wave actions and things like that. But in terms of a landfall risk, I do think it's going to stay offshore of the United States. But we're going to have to watch it carefully in case that tries to change, because it may be a close call. And we will be watching it here in the days ahead. Outside of Tropical Storm Erin, National Hurricane Center still highlighting a couple of low probability risks for tropical or subtropical development here over the next couple days in the North Atlantic. I'm not really expecting anything out of either system, and should we get a subtropical depression or something, it would be kicking off to the northeast and away from the United States, so not worried about any of that. We'll take a look at tropical satellite over the western Atlantic basin and toward the U.S. and such, and we do have blow up of thunderstorms over the Gulf. This is in association with the tropical wave that we've been watching since the weekend. Not expecting development out of that, but that will provide moisture and heavy rain for the southeast United States, in addition to some thunderstorm blow up with an upper level trough of low pressure here in the western Caribbean. A lot of wind shear with that, so not expecting development from that. And then outside of Tropical Storm Erin, there is another wave rolling off the west coast of Africa, but notice it's tied up in the upper level circulation of Erin, so it's likely to encounter a lot of wind shear. Erin would need to get significantly away from this wave in order for this wave to have the potential to develop. We will watch it in the days ahead, but for right now, not seeing any signs of this wave trying to develop behind Erin. We will watch things very carefully. Again, we're only to August 11th. The peak of the hurricane season doesn't happen until September 10th. And then the Atlantic hurricane season rolls all the way through the end of November. So we have a long ways to go. We'll watch Erin through the week. Very low probability of an East Coast threat. Most likely to be a recurve out in the open Atlantic. And I don't currently see any reason to believe it will be a direct threat to the Gulf. But we'll certainly watch everything out here in the Atlantic Basin, not just this week, but in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead through this Atlantic hurricane season.